Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. The return of Horrific Visions has been a new opportunity for players to not only experience the visions from Battle for Azeroth, though without any of the cloak grinds involved with it, but also an opportunity for players to get a bunch of new items to add to their collectibles, from a variety of different back pieces and transmugs and even a new pet, but also a bunch of secret items like toys found within Visions, as well as a plethora of new mounts for you to collect. 12 mounts in particular can be obtained from this content specifically, and I want to do a guide on how to obtain every single one of these mounts from Horrific Visions over these next few weeks, as with the Vision of Orgrimmar, we can now obtain a large majority of them, if not most of these mounts, by this week specifically. Since this video is going to be kind of a long guide, I did want to add some chapter markers down below so you can skip around from different mounts to mounts, or if you just need to go back to reference them for later, you can do so as well. Because it's also a long video, I do want to dive into it as soon as possible. But right before that, if you want to see more guides for War Within, Visions, or potentially any future content out of this expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So let's go over all of the different mounts that you can obtain from Horrific Visions, starting with the new mounts, but then also with the returning mounts towards the tail end of the video. The first mount will be Corruption of the Aspects, which will cost you Displaced Mementos. This is a vendor mount that can be purchased. It's a gorgeous looking model. I'm pretty sure it's just basically kind of like a Cataclysm promotional store mount that you can obtain, but void instead. This one isn't difficult to collect, it just takes a little bit of time because you're gonna need quite a few mementos. In fact, you're gonna need 40,000 of them, which sounds like a lot, but once you start actually farming visions and doing more runs, you can actually obtain that much fairly easily. We've done a guide video recently on how to farm visions if you're just trying to farm up as many mementos as possible, and it's very easy to do like a 3-mask run or a 4-mask or a 5-mask, whatever you're comfortable with, and have efficient enough runs to get through visions rather quickly to farm up all of that currency so you can buy up every single item on that vendor, including the Corruption of the Aspects mount. The next mount is going to be the Nesting Swarmite. This is one of those mounts that you can obtain randomly throughout a vision by searching trash piles, and there's a bunch of them that are scattered all throughout Orgrimmar and Stormwind. Normally there's about 4 trash piles for you to search through in every single vision run, which means 4 chances per run to potentially obtain this mount. You will know that you got the mount because it will spawn as a rare for you to defeat, and once you defeat it, that's how you loot this mount. This one, I looked up the RNG of how often this one procs or spawns. It doesn't seem to be too terrible, but also not super generous. Some players, of course, have gotten it by like their second trash pile. Other players are still searching for this mount and they haven't gotten it yet. I want to say for me, it took about 20 trash piles, so about 5 runs or so of strictly searching for this mount through every trash pile to find it. So it doesn't seem to be the worst spawn rate for the rare, but it's also not the most generous either, so this one may take you a little bit of time, which you can maybe work on, like using your search through the trash piles while you're farming up the mementos for the first mount in the Visions. The next mount is a Voidfire Stallion, which can only be obtained from the Stormwind Vision. And this one you'll require for you to also wear at least one singular mask of Horrific Visions within a vision in order to even be able to get a chance of obtaining this one. What you have to do for this mount is to collect 4 horseshoes found around the different zones of a Stormwind Horrific Vision. One of them will be located in the Cathedral Square, kind of like up here. One will be located in Old Town as you're moving your way through towards the second elite within the Old Town area. There's one in the Trade District, as well as the one in the Mage Quarter as well. You can kind of spot them somewhat easily if you're looking for them, because there'll be a bit of a glimmer and the horseshoe on the ground. They're not necessarily hidden, but they're not necessarily... Oh, some of them are actually kind of not out of the way necessarily. They'll actually be along the path that you would take throughout your vision, as long as you go in the right direction, so they're not necessarily difficult to get. But while one mask is active, collect 4 horseshoes and then take it back to the Dwarven District, to the Forge. And a lot of people said you need to click the Blacksmith Anvil. No, click the Forge in order to be able to summon the rare, defeat the rare to collect the mount, and that is how you'll be able to add the Stallion's Reins to your collection. The Void-Scarred Gryphon is another mount that you can get from the Stormwind Vision. It is a highly detailed version of the Gryphon mount, but covered in void. This one is going to be a little bit more involved, however. You first need to enter a Stormwind Vision with 2 masks available and active before you even attempt it. Then you want to head to the Trade District, normally where you would find like the stairs that take you to the Flight Master in Stormwind. On the way to the stairs, you'll also need to defeat the elite that hangs out in that area. Afterwards, you want to look for 2 nodes. One can be found at the top of the stairs, one a little bit further back away from the elite towards like the main center area, but you should be able to find the nodes pretty easily. These nodes will give you clues as to the items you need to summon the Gryphon. Now, Gryphon eats very, very specific types of foods, and one of the notes will tell you the Gryphon either likes fish, fungus, spiced meat, or steak, while the other note tells you if the Gryphon prefers their food raw or cooked. And then there'll be a little bowl next to a bunch of dead Gryphons, and you'll want to put the right food in the bowl and then rattle that food in order to summon the Gryphon. Now, the Gryphon only eats very, very specific items. So for fish, it'll be either fresh fillet or skewered fillet if it's cooked, chopped microbloom or roasted microbloom depending if it's raw or cooked, spiced meat stock or simple stew, again depending whether it's raw or cooked, as well as portion steak and unseasoned field steak. So those are the items that you'll want to pre-purchase ahead of your run and vision, because every time you enter, the combination of what the Gryphon wants to eat will be different. Once you get the right item in the bowl, you can rattle it, and if you don't see a bunch of enemies spawning out of the bowl, then it means you've done it correctly. When you look up into the sky, you'll see the Gryphon swoop down towards the bowl, defeat the Gryphon rare in order to obtain the Gryphon mount to add yet another one to your collection. The next mount is going to be the Voidscar Pack Mother, which is available with the current vision of Orgrimmar, and this one is generally easy to get. In fact, you can get both of the Orgrimmar visions in a single run if that's what you want to do. They're actually a little bit less involved than the Stormwind ones. For the Voidscar Pack Mother, you need to have at least 1 mask enabled before you enter the vision. Then you want to head into the Valley of Wisdom, near where the big hulking orc elite would be. Defeat him, and then behind him you should find Wolf Tack. That will be one of the items you'll need in order to summon this rare. The other item will be found in the Valley of Honor in the auction house, so you don't necessarily have to go defeat Rexar, although you probably should clear him since you're there anyway. But in the actual auction house, there'll be a wolf saddle. Once you have both of these items, you need to head all the way back to the drag area and enter a leatherworker skinning profession building, and in there you'll see a wolf skin rug. Activate the rug to summon the wolf rare, then defeat the wolf rare in order to be able to collect yet another mount to add to your collections. Another Orgrimmar mount that you can obtain pretty easily is the Voidscar Windrider, which again, like the Gryphon, is an upgraded, visually enhanced model, but just covered in the void. This one is actually really simple to get, although may be difficult if you don't have a lot of gear maybe. First of all, you need to have 3 masks active in a run. Then you need to clear the entire area of Valley of Wisdom, defeating the mini-boss of that area. And once it is cleared, once you clear that zone completely, there should now be an elevator up a ramp that takes you up into the Skyway, where you take the elevator all the way up, and then you walk further down to defeat some Void-Scarred Cubs and Void-Scarred Wyverns, until the Wyvern Matriarch spawns. So keep defeating them until Matriarch spawns. Once she's out, defeat the rare to collect yourself yet another mount to add to your collections. Another mount that you can begin while Vision of Orgrimmar is active is the Voidscar Panther, which isn't going to be made available until you collect the parts from Orgrimmar, and then you'll need to enter Stormwind Vision to collect some of the other parts as well. This one, however, does require a bit of a secret activation for it before you can start farming the parts for this mount specifically. So first of all, you can either be a jewel crafter to get the recipe to be able to craft this mount, or you don't even have to have jewel crafting active. You can just have a jewel crafter with the recipe crafted to you via a work order, but you can still collect all the supplies before you submit the work order to a jewel crafter. You need to have at least 1 mask active before you enter Visions, then head to the Valley of Honor, and then go into the Jewel Crafter's building down below, way before you go up a big ramp, and you want to slay a goblin named Big Keech. Big Keech drops you a couple of items. If you're a jewel crafter, he'll get you the recipe. If you're not a jewel crafter, I guess also jewel crafters get it too, you'll get a void-bound Orb of Mystery. Once you get that item in your inventory, then you can start collecting all of the other materials for the Crystal Panther. Killing Big Keech is really one of those catalysts that is necessary before you can start collecting those items, so you should definitely take him out as soon as possible, because then all the other items will start to drop. From there, you need to collect things such as Unusual Gem, which you'll need to get from Stormwind Vision, which you'll need to basically defeat Valira's Old Town area, and then pick up the Unusual Gems from the end of the run chest. That's all you need to do for that one. Outside of this, you need 20 Shadow-Infused Onyxes, which are looted from any end chests, while 1 mask at minimum is active, so it just means you have to do multiple runs of Visions until you get 20 of these. Then you also have to collect 4 black blood-infused bars from Visions, which are found in 2 specific areas. One of them is going to be found in Swarmite in the main center area where the blacksmith would be. Those should be one of the black bars. And if you're looking for a black bar in Swarmite, it'll be in the Valley of Wisdom right over here. There'll be a big Ny'alothan type of a sacrificial plate temple obelisk thing, and next to a sacrificed Orgrimmar guard, that should be one of those black blood bars. So you need 4 of them overall, so basically it means you need to do 4 more vision runs for those bars specifically. Once you collect all the items, if you're a jewel crafter, you can just craft the item and slap it together. If you are not a jewel crafter, then you can again use the work order system to get somebody who has the recipe in jewel crafting to craft it for you. Just ask him what's up. I don't really know how much it's going to go in terms of how much players are going to be tipping each other for to craft the mount, but getting 30 jewel crafting and doing it on your own character also should not be all that difficult either. In case you ever want to mess around with professions, that could be a pretty good time to pick up jewel crafting just for this mount, but also for gems in the future. Another awesome mount that is finally available as of this week is the Voidfire Deathcycle. Now, we did make a separate video on the Voidfire Deathcycle previously, and I'll just have the video linked in the description below because it goes over through all the steps and all the parts that you need. It's a bit more of an involved process that requires you to enter both Swarmite and Orgrimmar visions. It isn't necessarily a difficult process, as part of it has you collecting items from visions, another part will have you collecting items from open world vendors and through crafting components, or mostly auction houses buying up a recipe of things, so it's not really necessarily difficult to obtain by any measure, but it is a little bit of a longer process, so be sure to check out the video linked in the description. Another mount that I still have not obtained yet though is going to be Ny'alothan Shadow Worm. This one is essentially the challenge mount for visions. We have to complete both the Vision of Orgrimmar and Swarmite with every mask active. So all 8 masks, complete all the side objectives and defeat the final boss and come out alive at the end of the run. This is going to be a bit of a challenge as I tried it myself, and there's some bosses that are just absolutely brutal, and some of the encounters actually do scale quite high, especially with every mask active. Enemies have like 200% more health and damage done, and you have all these different sanity affixes to deal with, which can also be a little bit challenging as well. But it's definitely one of the challenging, harder runs that I've done on Visions ever. And it's just one of those challenging, maybe even somewhat frustrating, but difficult runs that I usually do enjoy, especially if you're running it solo. It can definitely be a bit of a challenge all in its own wake. So this one is going to be made easier as you get more hourglass upgrades from Visions, because it'll give you abilities like cheat death and reduce the amount of sanity damage you take overall in some of the spookier zones, and reduce the damage that you take from many of the enemies within Visions. So that will definitely make your runs a lot easier. So this could potentially be one of those long-term goals for you to set out on, and then build up your mask by running a 5 mask run, then a 6 mask, 7 mask, until you try to clear with 8 masks active solo for both Swarmite and Orgrimmar to collect this mount to add to your collections. However, with Visions, we do have new rewards, but also old ones. So if you're looking to get some of the rewards that were around for BFA, Visions will give you a chance to do so, like the Black Serpent of N'alothan, which requires you to get the achievement through the Depths of Visions, which was the original hard mode mount and a hard mode requirement for Visions, having you run with 5 masks active. And back then, 5 masks was like the highest of difficulty you could do with Visions at the time. 8 masks is a whole another set of challenge right now, but 5 masks I think is very doable. Get both Orgrimmar and Swarmite completed as a solo player with 5 masks, and you'll be able to claim yet another mount to add to your collections. Another mount that you can add is the male Muncher, which is very similar to the Swarmer. Like, you actually can get this mount very similar in terms of how you're able to normally get the Swarmer mount. But instead of clicking on trash piles, you have to click on mailboxes until the male Muncher pops out as a rare for you to defeat. This mount is definitely one of those easier ones to obtain. All you have to do is run around the Visions, clicking on mailboxes, but I think it has about a similar drop rate to the Swarmer. Or rather, Nesting Swarmite, actually. The Swarmer is, I'm thinking of a different mount. Nesting Swarmite is the one I was talking about. The Swarmer would be the Wicked Swarmer, which is a mount that you can obtain from the Vision vendor. But instead of costing you a bunch of mementos, it only costs you this time around 20,000, so about half of the Corrupted Aspects mount. Wicked Swarmer is one of those unique mounts that actually has some moving components. I don't know if anybody likes those kind of things on mounts, but if you look at his little nose tentacle things, they actually have some motion to them. Like, as you jump around, as he moves around, they kind of just flap around everywhere. A bit of a hilarious mount, but definitely one of the more unique ones if you want to add a crawly little bug N'alothan thing to your collections. So with that, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy this update or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. It would very much appreciate it. Also, join our Discord community if you got any questions regarding mounts or any of the other guides we've done for Visions so far. Also, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.